actually. This workshop I used to teach back in UPE, and usually it would be split between 2 workshops, so 1 hour each. But we're going to try to condense everything in the middle. So let me go ahead and share my screen for real now. Let me share audio. Okay. So I'm going to be presenting, but I only have 1 screen, so I'll be presenting and I won't be able to see the questions. So I'll pull out of the presentation once in a while to start looking at the chat, and that way I can respond to what the audience is saying. Okay. Cool. But the first things first. For today's workshop, welcome. If you don't have this already, I'm going to need you to download the latest version of Unity, as well as register with your Unity ID. That's the tool that we're going to be using today. If you haven't done that, please do that like right now. I think you should have enough time between now and when we start actually using Unity to be up to speed for the workshop. The other thing too is that I put some files on the Discord channel, the game dev Discord channel called Unity Workshop Files.zip. Those contain 3 C# files that we're going to use for our workshop today. So, so yeah, please go get that. Make sure it's downloaded in your desktop or wherever you feel comfortable, or somewhere that you can access it, so that way you'll be able to use it. Let me see if there are any good questions. Okay, we're good to go. Cool. So yeah, welcome guys. This is the Game Dev Workshop, sponsored by Xbox. So. A little bit about me. I am Jose Maldonado. Back at FIU, I co-founded a startup called Pilot VR, which we worked on the virtual reality technologies for physical therapy. I was also a project lead for Ignite the Future, which was an education program we worked with Sweetwater. And it also involved a little bit of tech too, and as well as I'm a UP alumni advisor. So I, along with a couple of other alumni, advised the board on like how the club's going, how are the ways that we can improve our leadership skills, things like that. And also, I am a PM at xCloud. Right now, I work over with the quality team, and it's been an exciting journey to see how game streaming is starting to come out and unfold in the world. I think we can all see that it's something that it's going to impact the future of gaming. So it's kind of really exciting to see something like that kind of coming up. Let's see, make sure. Yeah, it is early in Seattle. Maria, do download the Unity Hub, because I think that's how you download the individual Unity versions. Yes. Let's see. Okay. So goals for today. We're going to go over game development. Just a quick glance of it. And then we're also going to go over the basics of the Unity editor. So now, just to set some expectations, today's lesson is going to be very basic. It's going to be for the people that have never used Unity before. If you've used Unity before and you're already comfortable around it, you might learn a couple of things. But again, the workshop's really geared to the person that's never used this tool. So the language, kind of the pace, the things that we're going to go over through this are very elementary when it comes to using Unity to make games. Just so some people know, if you do have more advanced questions that might be not relevant for a beginner, I can take those questions and help you answer them offline. That is a thing I've been mentioning in the Discord as well throughout yesterday. Like, if you have any questions about the challenge, if you have any questions about Unity, please feel free to reach out to me in Discord. I'm on the Game Dev channel. So, these games, games are really meant to be immersive, engaging experiences, right? Like, I think everyone has a philosophy of making video games, but even before joining Xbox, I personally put a real emphasis on how do we build experiences for people using technology. And how do we use like art? How do we use creativity to bring these things to life, right? And when I talk about an experience, I mean a meaningful connection between the events in our environment and like our consciousness, right? How do we connect to what's going on? Whether that's game mechanics, whether that's a story, And I think we've all experienced this to a certain extent, right? Like in most of the video games that we do play, like we find ourselves in an environment that's trying to call to us, an environment that is giving events, that's telling a story, and then our way of interfacing, or our way of being inside the environment or the story is to play through the mechanics. And the environment and the mechanics together actually are what make the experience happen. So the relationship between two is really important. No, I think each one is not more important than the other. Yesterday about which one do you prefer better? Because I put on the judging for the actual Xbox challenge that storytelling and game mechanics would be something that I'll be looking at in particular. And I said that it's not really which one's more important. It's about how you use both to lean on each other and build an experience together, basically. Now, there's a couple of examples of this, right? Like you have something like Minecraft. I think most of us hopefully have played Minecraft. It's an amazing game to explore your curiosity. And you have this big immersive world, and you have these restrictions on how you can interact with it, which is, hey, you can break blocks, you can place blocks, you can go explore the infinite world. But with these finite set of mechanics and this giant environment, there's almost like an unlimited amount of experiences that you can have. And if you've been playing Minecraft since the early days, you know that you've experienced almost every kind of emotion when you're in game. Like you experience joy when you beat the Ender Dragon, or when you when you find diamond. But sometimes you also feel fear when you get a creeper exploding next to you, or you fall into a pit of lava. But it kind of goes back to the emphasis that this experience being built on a computer is making you feel these things, and it's making you experience these things through the mechanics and through the environment, right? There's other games, right, like Sea of Thieves. Maybe some of you guys have played it. It's an amazing game, but you also have a sense of adventure. You have a sense of story, and you have a sense of collaborating with other people. Yeah, it's one of the truly coolest games that has come over the last couple of years. Don't tell Phil, but I'm also a very good Nintendo guy. I love Nintendo to death. I grew up playing Nintendo games. And I'm kidding, you can tell Phil, because at Xbox we love all kinds of games. My coworkers play on the Switch. We play on the PlayStation 5. We play on the Xbox. We love all kinds of games, and we look for inspiration wherever we can find it, right? But as an example, the Breath of the Wild that I started to play maybe like a year ago, absolutely amazing game, right? You have this big environment, you have a story, and the mechanics that you have to explore and to experience this world allow you to be creative, have fun, and experience different kinds of emotions as you go through, right? And as in particularly as part of xCloud, right? Like then now you start thinking, oh, how does this change? Obviously, xCloud is a hard technical problem, and it's bringing a lot of opportunity, and it's bringing a lot of new ways to play. So how does that impact the way you experience video games, right? Like how does that change the way video games are delivered? How are video games experienced differently on a mobile device compared to a console? There's a lot of questions around that, and they're important questions to answer, since really, what you guys want to do on a gaming platform is play and experience and get to know and know these things, right? So let me stop here. Let me see if I have any questions so far. Garcia says, anyone familiar Unity and JavaScript? I need one more person in my group. Okay. Garcia, I think if you look in the game dev Discord right here, you could ask right here. So I would highly suggest that you look there. Kimley, 2D or 3D for beginner? I think I don't think it makes much of a difference. We're gonna go over 3D here, but I think you could apply the same concepts for 2D, at least for the scope of what we're gonna go over today. Okay, I'm going. I guess if you have a question right now, right now would be a good time to type it so I can take a look at it before we move on. Rachel says, I'm beginning to feel tension of trying to finish a game dev project with the time restraint. Yeah, I think a lot of game dev teams can feel you on this. Like a lot of, game development teams infamously push back deadlines, right? Like I think Cyberpunk, Halo got pushed back. So I would say reach out to me if you need help. I'm definitely more than willing to see what barriers you're hitting, and maybe we can overcome them so you can finish a good game. If not, then I think it's about trade-offs, right? Like, what's more important for your game for you to experience it? Sometimes you'll have a big vision, but like any creative project, like you'll have a limited amount of time to finish it. So I would think about that. Okay, something to get used to. IG. Okay. Hi, I just got in. What's this about? It's a workshop about Unity. So Unity is a game engine that you can use to build video games. Yep. Thanks, Maria, for clarifying that. How did you get a job with Xbox? Let me get to that at the end. I want to make sure we get through as much material as we can, and maybe I'll leave like the last 10 minutes for Q&A. How come Miami lost? I don't know, man. I wish I knew. I wish Miami won. Can we design a basic game with just JavaScript and C#? I mean, you use C# in Unity. That's what we're gonna go. That's what we're gonna look at today. So yes, a basic game. If you want to do a really complicated game, you probably need more programming languages because you gotta use AI and online services and things like that. But just for single player basic, I think C# is good enough. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so cool. We've talked about video games and the importance of focusing on the experience and the mechanics and how those things play together. But now you're probably sitting in your chair or in your bed, or I don't know where you are because this is an online hackathon. How do you actually make the game? And as somebody that has experience being a beginner before, I know how frustrating it could be and how complex it could sometimes seem to be to even begin to think about building a game, because the tools are scary. How do you put your ideas to the technology? But that's what we're going to try to do here today, at least to start, and then hopefully with what we're going to show you today, you'll have the foundations to ask more questions and also to seek help and to start building something, because that's how you learn. The biggest thing I think is, how do you take an idea that you have in your head and you think it through, and you have the ability to actually put it out and make a game out of it. That's actually the biggest problem with any creative project, whether it's music or whether it's video games or whether it's movies. The hard part is actually taking the representation of what we have in our brains and putting it out in the physical world. So that's what Unity is. Unity is a tool that basically brings up a bunch of tools and a lot of libraries and a lot of different things that are necessary to make a game, and brings them together in one tool or workbench that you can use to build something, right? You can have kind of the analogy of a workbench, where Unity isn't necessarily Unity is the game engine, but I think Unity is also like the workbench, like the thing that has the tools for you to build the actual game, right? So think about it that way. There's a wide range of tools. There's a lot of resources. There's a big community online. That's why I usually tell people to get into Unity first, because I found I've personally found it, and some people could disagree with me here, and that's okay, but I found a lot more beginner-friendly resources available for Unity compared to Unreal or other competing game engines. Just as an FYI, I'm not representing Unity as Xbox. This is just a tool that I've used historically, so that's why I'm teaching it. With Unity, you can also export to different platforms. So let's say that you build a game in Unity for iOS. It'll be a little easier to also export it out to Android. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of tech fixes that you need to do, platform things, but those should still work. And the other thing about Unity too is that it's easy to use and it's intuitive. So after you kind of get through the kinks of what the editor is and what the different things are. Cool. So this is the part where I want to ask you guys to open Unity. Yeah, let me see. This is where I want you guys to open Unity. I'm going to close Unity and I'm going to open it with you guys. So if you guys could go, let me see if there's any questions. These are all good questions. I'll try to get them at the end of the, yeah, those are all good questions. If you could keep the questions to the scope of the workshop, since we have a lot of material to cover, it'll be great. If you have other questions, again, you feel free to reach out to me. But at the end, I'll try to get to these other questions at the end of the workshop, if they're not that cohesive with the material of the workshop. So good questions then. So I want you guys to bring up Unity. So like if you put the Unity on your Windows, you'll be able to open it up. Let's see. Also, I think I'm gonna need to open my Unity hub. Hold on. Yeah, like because sometimes you could have multiple versions of Unity. Yeah. So you can see all my projects here. You can see a bunch of other things I've built over the years, like the pilot stuff for VR. So I already have a project made, but for you guys, what you would do is open this hub up, and then you create a new project. You click your new, and then you would say, I don't know, I want shell. Oh, I can't spell this morning. ShellHacks 2020. I'm gonna put 1 because I already have a project for me. And then you could put 3D, and then you create. So things should be opening now. While it loads, let me see if I can answer some questions. Lewis, is it difficult to make your own games for Xbox? I believe it's not hard, but the thing is, like, you can actually make the game in Unity and export it to the Xbox. But the thing is, I believe you need a dev kit to actually push the code up to the Xbox. Now, I think what you could do is you could publish a Windows app, like using the Windows Universal app, into Xbox, and I think that's a much easier way to make the game without going through like the game dev pipeline. That's a good question, though. That's another good question. Like what we're showing today is to just build on PC. Hopefully in the future, if things are a little easier, then I could teach how to actually work on the Xbox. Okay, this is taking a little longer than I thought, but I'm sure you guys are opening Unity. Does anybody have issues opening Unity right now? Just so I can maybe answer some questions around that. Oh man, okay. You're taking quite a while. You know. It's okay. Sounds good. Yeah, it looks like my Unity's not having a lot of fun right now either. So okay. So this is what a new project would look like. I think for the people out there that have never used Unity, if you have your Unity open, you're gonna have a different layout of how the things look. I would highly recommend. This is my preferred way of having the Unity laid out. You can actually move these panels around, but if it makes it easier for you to follow and have the same layout as myself, then the way you could set it to this layout is go to Window and go to Layouts, and it's 2x3, I believe. Yeah, it's 2x3, and that will automatically shift everything to the way it is. So if you recently opened Unity, you have this panel open, and just hold on there for a minute. That's kind of where we're gonna this is where we're gonna start right now. But I'm gonna bring up my project so that way we can work off that. Okay, GitHub. Yes, Kevin's right. Unity is temperamental sometimes, not bueno. Yeah, you can make animations. Although I know there might be other software that might be better at making animations. I think some 3D software might be better for that, but you could actually build the animations in Unity, provided that I think you have some skeleton structure. I'm not too experienced on the animation side for Unity, but I know it can be done. Okay, sounds good. Picture, cool. Yeah, it looks super cool. All right, so let's go over first the basic stuff, like the actual layout of Unity. So when you open up, this is an older version of Unity. I have the more updated version on the other slides, but it basically follows the same gist. You have under these color boxes, each represent different things. Whoa, bless you. Each of these boxes do point to a different panel, and each panel does a specific thing that's important in the process of making a game, right? So that's what we're going to go over right now, really quickly. So the project panel is your kind of if you've seen maybe like an artist paint, right? You know how the artist has the kind of like the palette with all the colors and stuff, and you have your your blues, your reds, your everything, and then you have your brush, right? So really, this project panel is basically kind of like your piece of wood right here with all the colors, and by that I mean this is where all your assets are at. This is where your 3D models are going. This is where your scripts are going. This is where everything that's in your game that's a file, or that's like a source, or like any bits that go into your game go here. So think about it that way. It's also easier to think of the project panel as kind of a shortcut to the folder, the folder structure where all the things that are in your video game are kept. I can actually prove this, right? If you go to assets and you right click right here and you show and explore, you'll see that you're taken to the folder of your project for Unity called ShellHacks 2020 for myself, because that's what I named it. And if you go to the assets folder, you're going to see that all the files that are in here, the C# files, the scenes, you have the cube color, all that stuff. It's in here. So this is really just a representation of the files that are in that folder, and it just makes it easier to go grab. It's easier to create things in the folder. It's easier to delete or move around or create folder structures. Like imagine for a video game like even not too complex, but let's imagine like the Untitled Goose Game. Like you guys might think that it's simple, but it might contain thousands of assets and different classes and programming and things. So actually in here, that's where you would organize all those things. But for now, we don't need to worry about it too much since we're just learning, right? You see, Kevin, bless you. Bless you too. The next one is a hierarchy. So this one is important. This one's right here. So what the hierarchy does is that it shows you all the objects that are in your game. right? So the way Unity works is that you create a scene, and that's kind of like it could be thought of as like your level, or it could be thought as like the scene in which your video game takes place. And in that scene, maybe like think about it also in a movie, right? You have a scene, you have like a particular setting. You have different things inside the scene that are part of the actual experience of the video game, right? So in our case, you guys, when you in you guys' case, you'll have a main camera and a direct light. You guys won't have this, but that's what we're gonna get into in a minute. But if you guys, like double click on main camera, you'll see that, and there's a camera in the scene, which is what's responsible for what the player sees, right? It's kind of like when you're filming and you have a camera, and that's what you see as a viewer of the movie. It's the same thing as of the video game. It's the camera view that a player sees. It could be that the camera could be used for first person or third person, depending on how you program the camera, right? So right now, in this case, we have a third-person view. We're going to go over the scene and the game components in a second, but just to give you guys a quick view that the camera is right here in the scene, looking down and giving you that 3D perspective of the game. You also have some light, and that's what actually brings light to the game. If you guys wouldn't have that, it's going to be fully dark, and I think you'll be able to see something, but it'd be really hard. And then you have other things in the scene, like the cube. I have a little cube right here in the middle of my game. I have a floor, which is right below that, and then I have a little coin that my guy is going to go in and grab, and that's how we're going to play the game. And then obviously you can add more things to the hierarchy. I think this is a good time to show how I put the cube in my game, right? So the way you add things into your game, you can actually do it on your hierarchy, right? Because what's on your hierarchy represents all the physical things that are in your game. If you want to create the cube guy, all you would have to do is go and right-click on hierarchy, and you'll be able to see all these different things that you can create and add to your game. So for example, if I wanted to add a 3D object like a cube, I'll just go here in 3D object, and I would press cube. There you go. So you'll see that I created a new cube right here. We can rename it here, whatever we want. It's we'll call it temp cube, because that's a temporary cube, because that's what we have right now. And you see that we've added a cube right here, the guys right here. You can add all different kinds of shapes. So feel free to play around with that. You can also add more complex shapes, like an actual 3D model, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's see, do we have any questions so far? Yes, world building is super cool. Actually, I have some tips for you, Maria, that can really help with your world building. Because I think that the hardest part of world building is actually finding the assets to build your world with. Okay, that's pretty much it for hierarchy. Now we have the scene and the game. So the scene, think of it as, how we had the analogy of your project panel being kind of like, where you put your paints and everything, where you put the materials that you're going to do to create. Think of the scene panel as your canvas, right? So you're taking your brush, you're taking stuff from the project panel, and you're scooping up the beautiful paint, and now you want to paint on the canvas. That's what the scene is. And with the scene, you have a particular amount of freedom, right? Like you can move around the scene like I'm doing right now. The way you rotate your camera is by right-clicking and moving your mouse around. So if you right-click, you kind of lock this eye kind of view, and then you can rotate around and see what's around the scene. As you guys can see, you guys have these grids. That's because Unity works in a coordinate system. So you guys can actually see here, there's a Y, a Z, and X axis. And, I'm not I think each of these squares is equal to 10. I have to check in a minute. But it's a defined amount of space. But yeah, so if, for example, if you had, for example, let's try something out, right? You guys don't have this yet, but it might actually be a good time to actually add it. So let me, for those of you that are following, I think you already have the cube. So let me actually, we can do this actually. So I can take this out. The way you can remove things easily out of the game is also to deactivate them. The way you could do that is by clicking this check mark right next to the name in this inspector that we're also going to go over in a minute, so don't freak out too much. But what I want you to do is, so that way you can see how the scene works. I want you to create a 3D object and create another cube. And let's just call this floor 2, right? I'm just showing you guys how I made the floor. So you have a square here. You have an ability to change it. Oh man, actually, hold on. Okay, we're gonna do that in a minute, but I think this is also a good time to show you the inspector as well. So before I go into that, I want to show you guys about the game scene. So the game scene is actually what the player sees. So when we press this play button, you'll be able to see exactly what the camera is looking at. I think that's the best way to put it. So we looked at this camera object and see what this is looking at, and this gives you the camera preview. This is exactly what the player is looking at, and we'll be able to manipulate that in a second. So before we build the floor, I do want to show you guys the inspector and the components. Let me see if we have, okay. So this is really important. This is probably one of the most important parts of Unity, because this is where a lot of the magic happens. So you know, for those that are following, I'm trying to recreate the floor that we had. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to need you to create a cube. Just call it whatever you want. So now we have it in our scene, right? And that's our canvas. So how do we turn this cube into this flat red thing? Well, in the inspector, if you click on floor, it's going to give, if you click on any of these, it's going to give you an inspector view of the object that you're clicking on. So if you go to, like, for example, my cube, you see a bunch of different things that are related to this cube. If you go to the floor cube that we're trying to make into the floor, you'll have these different things. And basically the way you can think about it is these different sections that you see in here are things that describe the nature of the object. So for example, the transform tells you about the position of the object in space. It tells you about the rotation of the object in space. It tells you about the scale of the object in space, which basically tells you the ratio of the shape itself. So since we're trying to make the floor, let's focus on the transform, which is what describes the shape and the position and the rotation of the object. Let's say we want to build the floor. Well, first of all, I would recommend you reset this, because you want to kind of start it in the middle. What reset does is that it basically turns these values into the default ones, which is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. And yeah, let's make the floor. So we don't really want to move the cube around too much. We want to keep it at the origin to make things a little easy. We don't really want to rotate it, right? What we do want is to build that floor out. So this cube looks like this right now. Let's see. Oh, this is the cube guy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me delete this guy right now. Yeah. This floor guy looks like a cube right now. So how do we flatten it? Well, on the y-axis, right? We want to kind of flatten it, kind of like the floor, right? If you look at the floor here, it's kind of flat. And you can actually see this over here. If you look at it from the side, it looks kind of flat. It's not as thick as a cube. So how do we do that? Well, you simply you have a scale of 1. What you can do is cut that into different segments, right? So if you divide the y-axis by 10, and you have a y of 0.1 for the scale, you're going to get a scale of 0.1 on the y-axis, and that makes the cube flat. Well, now you're saying, Jose, well, now it's flat, but how do we expand it? Well, we want to increase the scale of the box, deep and wide, right? And the way we do that is by increasing the scale on the x and y axis on the z axis. So let's put 15 on the x and let's put 15 on the z. Now you have this big rectangular box right here. So the reason I'm showing you this is for a couple of reasons. I want you to understand that the inspector is where you can access the different things that make that object the object, and there's different ways that you can manipulate that. And then also you can see that we're starting to build different things on the scene with things that are in the hierarchy, right? If you built this floor and you want to add color to it, that's a great question. I already have this red color right here, but you're probably curious on how I did it. So you can actually create new colors by on your right. Remember your palette with colors. You can create new colors. The way you do that is going to create. You go to material, and you're creating a new material. And I'm gonna call it. Let's say I just want a blue color. And basically what materials are things you put on the actual 3D models, like colors, textures, things like that. And the way you change the colors by clicking on this little color palette thing, and it'll give you a color wheel. So let's say I want blue. And you guys can see actually on the little blue ball that you guys can see the color change. So here we know that this material is blue. And just like an artist that would go from the piece of wood into the canvas, what you can do is grab this, see how I'm dragging this right here? And you can actually drag it into this cube thing. And that's how you paint it, basically like that. And yeah, and then if you go back to the floor, you can do, again, different things with it. You can change the position. Let's say you want the floor lower. You could, if you want to go lower, right, you have to go in the negative direction on the y-axis. So you go like -10. And then it lowers the floor. You go -5, or let's say you want the floor above it for whatever reason, and you put 5, and now the floor is higher, right? But for now, let's keep it in the default. So that's how you make the floor. So I already have a floor. So I'm going to deactivate this, and I'm going to activate my other floor. So this guy's the guy that it's basically the same thing. Let me see if there are any questions here. Yes, they are good. There are good assets around. I'm going to show you as fast as I can. Okay, so same thing applies to the cube, right? I think the cube is basically going to be our first person, our player, like the actual hero of the game, you can say. So maybe I can recall this hero, and that way I know that this game object is the actual person that's playing. The actual person that's moving. As you guys can see, like my hero is a little bit elevated from the floor, and that's for a reason, right? You don't want your player to be stuck in the floor. Then your player can't move. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a very basic view on what each of these panels do. And now we're going to get into the actual playing of the game, or the actual running of the game. So that's done with the play button and the object tools. And well, the object tools give you more flexibility into editing things in game. But the play tools are important because it's what actually allows you to play, right? So actually, let me, I wish I could turn this off, but it looks like I can't. Okay. So if you press play on your game, right now you shouldn't have the coin. What you should have is the box that we initially made, and then the floor, right? So if you press play, I want to turn this off because so just so you guys can see where we're at exactly. Yeah, you should have something like this. Nothing exciting is happening. Like when you press play, nothing's happening. So naturally, when you're building your game, you're thinking, oh, well, I want something to move. I want things to be interactive, and I want things to, be playable. I guess that's what you could say. So that's what we're going to do right now. But to actually run the game and test your game, this is how you would do it. You would press the play button, and that's how you would start doing things. So so now you're thinking, okay, well, how do I move my hero, right? Um, and that's actually with the scripting and programming of things now. So with the things that you downloaded, I sent a zip file on the Discord, and what the zip file contains are these 3 different classes. So if you have Unity downloaded, please open that zip file, and what you would need to do, here, I'll do it right now with you guys so that you guys can see. I would download these guys. Let's go, come on, come on, come on. There you go. Dang it. Okay, I should be able to go here. Okay, so if you extract here, extract the files here. So you're gonna have these 3 different CS files. It's as easy as dragging these guys in here. Like if you have coin.cs, I would just drag it in here. Now I'm not gonna do that because I already have my files in there, but that's exactly what you would do, and that's how you would add these C# files into your project. So when we think about playing a game, right, the first thing that comes to mind would probably be like, well, how do I control things in Unity? And that's how that's what we're going to explore with Playercontroller. So I know this is probably going to take a little time, but I do need to. Is there a way to mount the object on the floor perfectly? There is, but ping me after the thing so I can show you how to do that. Right now, we're just going to go through things a little fast. Yeah. Well, first of all, actually, before we add the controllers, you know, if you're playing a game, the person in your world probably is affected by gravity. It's affected by physics, right? The way you can allow your object to be affected by gravity, because right now you see, like, when you press play, you can actually see probably the box floating a little bit right here. So there's a little space between it. That tells you that the box isn't being affected by gravity, right? And when you play a game, right, you're usually stuck to the floor. The way you do that actually is by creating this thing called a rigid body. And this is a good example of how to add things, add like different things to your game objects that impact gameplay. So here, let me do it again. So rigid body basically tells the game engine, hey, this is a thing that's affected by physics, right? Gravity, being pushed by things, forces, things like that. So maybe a rigid body would be important for things like a canyon ball, or like some sort of projectile, or things in your world that collide with each other, I guess, right? That you want them to act like real things. The way you do that is by going to add component. Yeah, these are all the different components you can add. There's a gazillion things that you can add for different uses, but the rigid body is usually one of the basic ones because it affects so many things in the game. And it's right here, rigid body under physics. Now, for our particular case, you want to freeze rotation of the X and Z axis, and I'll show you why. If you press play now, you see how the cube fell? It's because now the cube's affected by gravity. So for the question on how to perfectly mount it on the floor, this is it's not programmatically mounting it on the floor perfectly, but that's how you actually let it stick. This is for you. Okay. Anyways, okay. So if you guys can add a rigid body to your hero, that'd be great. So that way you can see the box actually fall down. Make sure that the use gravity tick is lit up, or else it won't be affected by gravity. Okay, now back to the Playercontroller. Hopefully you guys have these scripts in your Unity project already. And let me see if there's any questions on that. Okay, cool. So when you click on here, let me close this too, so you guys can see exactly what happens when I click on this. If you download Unity, you probably downloaded Visual Studio along with it, because that's the editor that Unity uses to edit C# code. So all that you would need to do is open Playercontrollers first, because that's where a lot of the code for controlling the player is actually at. So if we double click on this, it's going to open Visual Studio. Let's give it a minute. Ooh. Come on, Visual Studio. There we go. Okay, so again, we're running out of time, but again, we're trying to run through Unity in an hour. But I think hopefully you have the basics to get kind of started, right? Basic thing about programming in Unity, when you create a script in Unity, every script's going to have a start function, and then it's going to have an update function, right? For those that know programming, know what functions do. Basically, when you press the play button in Unity, code that's in the start function is going to get called, like in all scripts. So this is kind of where you do your initialization, like, hey, this is where I need my player to be when I press play. This is the health that my player is starting with. This is the weapons that my player is starting with right now, things like that. The update function is called in every frame, right? So a game runs at like 30 or 60 frames per second. So for every frame, you're going to be able to call this function and then check, like, for example, if am I colliding with something? Have I been shot? Have I won the lottery? Like, whatever. You check the state of the game so that way you can react to it accordingly. So if you guys look in the update function, even if you don't know C#, you can probably tell that here I'm doing if statements, and I'm basically checking if I'm getting input, right? So if I'm getting input for left, if I'm getting input for right, for the right key, if I'm getting input for the up key, if I'm getting input for the down key, or if I'm getting input for the space key. And each of these, I print to make sure that I pressed it, and also I call code that allows me to manipulate the object, right? So for example, like the way that you manipulate the physical motion, the physical position and rotation, like if you basically want to programmatically edit and control what's in this transform, right? If you want to change these values with code, because when you think about it, right, like if you want to make your square move, all you have to do is change these X, Y, and Z values on the position, because you're changing the position programmatically from an input. So here, if you look at like up, right, here you can see that you're basically translating the object forward with this code over this time, right? And there's resources online that explain to you exactly why it needs to be done this way, but I don't want to get delved too into it because I think we're running out of time. But that's the basic stuff, and you know, and the update function, if you want to look for other things or other inputs, like if you want to use other keys like R or letters or other things, that's where you would find this and put the code that you want to happen when you press the key, right? So when I press the left key, this code gets executed. But you're asking, oh well, okay, I made this code. How do I actually make it run with Unity? Well, it's the same thing with the inspector, right? Remember how I talked about how when you look at the inspector, all these things are descriptive of the object? Well, it's the same thing for scripts. If you actually look here on my inspector for my hero, you'll see that I have a script for player controls. And basically what this says is that when I press play, the hero game object is going to run the script, and basically that game object is going to own the script itself. And that's why when you call transform, like this guy right here, it's calling into the transform of this particular cube. That's why here it's translating the cube. Like it's not translating anything else, right? Because then you'd be like, oh well, how do you tell like which thing to move? It's because the hero is owning this script. The way you add it is actually pretty easy. Here, I'll take this out, right? I'll remove the component. All you have to do is, again, like the painting, like you scoop up your paint and you put it on your canvas. All you have to do is drag your script and put it on the cube itself. And then you'll see that it's added over here. So now when you do that, actually, if you press play, you should be able to move now. Yeah, look at that. There you go. It's a moving box. Nothing too exciting, but this is just a start, right? Hey, there we go. There we go. So you see, like the camera is laid over. Like if you compile this and you exported this, the player would have the view of the game, or like this. This is what you would actually see when you run your game. This is third person. If pro tip, if you want a first person, what you would have to do is make sure that the camera and the hero, the coordinates are aligned. So that way that like as the hero moves, also the camera moves. That's basically what first person is. Cool. And there's other things that there's other behaviors, right, that we can add to our cube. Like you're all probably really curious what happens when you fall off, right? So like if you jump off the ledge because it's 2020, you'll see that the cube's falling forever. What if we don't want it to do that? Well, I have a script for that, right? It's called fault check. And if you double click on that, you'll see that I have code here for every update, right? So, I mean, programming convention, like if you make a class, right, you want to make your class about a particular thing. You don't want to couple a bunch of different concepts in the class because then it makes it hard to like understand and read your code and debug and all those things. So I made a class just to check that if I fell off the edge, then just teleport me back to the origin. So for every update function, I check if I access my transform, which basically accesses from my hero this transform, right? Actually, this is a cool experiment. Yeah, if you play it and you look at the transform, you'll actually see the transform, the values of the transform change dynamically as you play. And that's because I'm programmatically changing these values with the script, right? So if you see, like if I fall off the edge, you'll see the Y value and you'll start seeing negative. So when I go back to my script, all I have to do is check the Y position of my cube and say, hey, if it's less than 5, I need you to make the position of my cube this, which basically is where we started, right? So now if, imagine that I dragged my fault check into my cube. Right now I have it turned off, but if I turn it back on, you'll see that if I fall, I'll teleport it back. Yep. So this is actually the reason why also with rigid body, we picked freeze rotation for X and Z. It's because if we don't do that, look what happens. It's actually kind of funny. Look, if I fall, you see how the cube rotates? It's because of the physics, right? Like if you fall, you're going to be pushed by different forces, and it's going to mess up your controls. Yeah, if you try to play, your cube's going to go a little haywire. So that's why I recommend freezing your rotation. But you basically can't change your rotation values based on forces, right? Okay, and we have 4 minutes left. I think the last thing that I want to show you guys, and I'm going to share this Unity project with you guys, so that way you guys can explore it. And maybe if you're having a hard time, maybe use this template to build different things. I'm going to delete this floor since this is not the one I'm using. But I also have a coin, right? The way I built this coin, and you guys can see it over here, is you can actually build a cylinder. If you go here and you create a 3D object, you can create a cylinder, right? And same thing, use your imagination with the scale. Here, let me reset this. Yeah, so right now oh, fun fact too, by the way, you guys see these arrows when you click on the game object, you guys can actually drag things out. You guys can also rotate. Like this is a little ribbon thing up here. Like if I want to rotate the coin, I can just go like this. Yeah. And so yeah, that's what these guys are useful for. Anyways, if you want to create a coin, how do you create a coin out of a cylinder? Well, let's see. Can we rotate it by 90 degrees? And can we flatten it? Let's see. Well, look at that. We basically turned a cylinder into a coin, right? The way you do that is by rotating it by 90 degrees on the x-axis, and then by reducing the scale of the height. So that way you're basically compressing the cylinder and making it look like a coin. So what does a coin do, right? We collect the coin. So actually, that's what this other class is. If you double click on coin, this is actually a really useful method that that you'll use in Unity sometimes, because outside of the start and update, you can also call something called void on trigger enter, which basically tells you when something has collided with the object that owns this script. So I'll print collision, and then basically what I'm doing here is I'm picking a random position on the floor. So I already know the dimensions of my floor. It's 28 by 28, and on the grid, like the origin's in the middle, right? So if you go on one side, you go like negative numbers, and then you basically you choose a random value for these, for the x and the z axis, and then you apply it with this transform that position. And the way you express coordinates in Unity is with this vector object. So this is when you create a new vector object, it's basically your x, your y, and your z value. So what happens when you so for this coin thing, right? Like this coin script is going to be owned by the coin game object. So you would actually drag the coin to the game object coin. So like like this, right? It's not gonna let me do it. Well, I guess it did let me do it. I could do it multiple times, but I'm not gonna do it twice. I already have the guy here. So when I run it, I should be able to collect my coin. Let's see. If I collect the coin, it should move. Yeah, there you go. See? Now I'm gonna go ahead and go get the other coin, the other guy. Yeah. Now I'm gonna be rich. Same thing. Like if you want to make the coin yellow, you just go to make a new material right here. Then you put coin, and we all know coins are yellow, right? So we go to the yellow color. I don't want that. There you go. There you go. And then you just like as an artist, you just go like this, and then your coin's yellow now. Okay, I'm out of time, but hopefully this was useful. I'm going to put this Unity project on the Discord channel, and if you have any questions, inspect it. Use what you learned today in this workshop to look at how the things worked. Try to mess with it if you haven't messed with Unity too much, and that way, hopefully, they'll give you the foundations to at least get started, or at least learn how to express the ideas that you have in your head into Unity. I know that in the beginning it's really tedious. Like trust me, I've been there. But once you learn Unity, it's quite incredible with the things that you can really express in them. Like trust me, because I built a like the VR system on it. We built like wizard simulations. We built a bunch of stuff. The minute you start really figuring it out, you can't stop. It's kind of addictive. But yeah, I'm actually open to answer any questions right now. I know that the workshop ended, but I could stay for another. I don't know if Kevin's here. I can maybe spend 5 minutes answering any questions, unless you guys have another event to go to. Where's a good place to store my Unreal projects so recruiters can see it? You know what would be cool? I think you can export your it's a good question. If there's a way to put your game on a website, dude, that'd be amazing. Like that way you go to a website and then the people can play your actual game. I know Unity supports exporting to HTML, I think. I don't know if Unreal does that. If not, then I would if you have a website, I would add a link to your game. And yeah.
Yeah, I would say with big projects like Unreal Engine projects, it's usually better to just record like a good demo that can really showcase your project, because a project as ambitious, like Unreal Engine projects tend to be pretty ambitious and tend to be pretty demanding graphically. So putting that on a website would probably actually reduce the quality of your work. So I would say it's probably better to just record a nice demo video and then promote that all over. I mean, as far as where to promote it so that it can get picked up on things, I mean, there's a bunch of websites that you can share game dev work, like you have itch.io and things like that. And just also, I recommend, this one sounds weird. Reddit is a really good place. There's a really good game developer community on Reddit. There's some subreddits like game dev, I think it's game dev classifieds, that is specifically about like posting game development jobs that you can apply to. And there's just a bunch of websites that you can just kind of promote your game and pick up traction there.
Yeah. Like Kevin, yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah, but just to answer your question, we can stay. The workshop is over, but it shouldn't kick anybody out. So if you want to have a Q&A and stuff about a lot of the general questions that were posted earlier, or just general questions about the game dev industry, we're more than welcome.
Whoa. Coronavirus. Hopefully not. Let's see. Actually, before I end, because I think some people might want to know this, if you're in Unity, let me share my screen real quick. Super important. I'm sharing my screen, I think. Okay. If you go to Window and you go to Asset Store, you'll actually open the Asset Store for Unity, and you can find different assets that you can use for free. So that way you don't have to be a ratchet like me and make coins out of cylinders. Maybe you could find actual coins. Like if you go to search assets and you put coins. Let's see, come on, accept cookies. Yes, I accept your cookies. But I need you to work, Unity. Come on. Wow, okay. All right, coins. Yeah, if you go to coins, you get like, oh, okay, there's cars too, I guess. Okay, yeah, there's coins here. Now, some do cost money, but if you go to filter, you should be able to, I don't know why this is going super slow. This is not good. Yeah, you can go to free assets. Click free assets. And then I guess this guy. And then you'll be able to find free gold coins or like potions and boxes and different things. And what you would do is you would actually press download, and I think it will download directly to your project, and it'll pop up here in your project panel. So pro tip: if you want to look at a good actual graphics and stuff. Okay. Okay, any other question? Let me see. Any resources you recommend looking into? Yes, if you still have questions, this is really important. I used this in my internship with the Navy to learn Unity, and it was probably the best tutorial I've seen for Unity right there. The rollerball example. Now, obviously, it's not as exciting, but it teaches you the basics of Unity and how to use it. So definitely check that out. For music, do you just put it in your assets folder or in a WAV, or is a WAV preferable? I've historically used MP4. I mean, if I think you shouldn't have a problem with WAV. I mean, I think you shouldn't worry. I don't think there's a reason to worry about it too much at the moment, unless Unity can't really play WAV. But I don't think that's been my experience. So just use WAV. I think WAV is a little more heavier, like in terms of size. So I think when you build a game of a large scale, then you want to be mindful of your file size, right? Because you don't want to be. You guys probably been there, and that's a big selling point for xCloud or Stadia or the new Amazon Luna service, that you guys won't have to wait to download the game to play it, right? So yeah, just be mindful of that if you have a lot of music. And Charlie said, Unit really said no Xbox Unity Workshop today. I'm not sure what you mean. If you could clarify that, I think I can answer that question a little better. Okay, any other questions, you guys? If not, I'm going to hang out in the Discord channel, and then I could be answering any questions that you guys have. Wait, Kevin, you're muted.
Sorry, I was gonna say, do you guys have any questions for Jose about just the game dev industry in general, or his experiences, or anything like that? I can probably set up like a little voice channel for game development, and we can hang out there for a bit if you guys just want to ask him anything later on. So
It'd be cool to do like a Q&A. I know some people. I know a lot of people had Q&A questions.
Yeah, that's why. So I wanted. I know that there's a lot of general questions. So if we want to do a Q&A, I'll probably look into the schedule, see what might be a good time, and then we'll just post an announcement there, and I'll just make the chat. And then if anybody wants to stop by, you're welcome to. But yeah,
Okay.
if there's any other workshops that you guys want to go check out, go ahead, Jose. I don't know if there's any parting words.
I am going to check the Discord for a second, and I'm going to go to sleep because it's 7 o'clock. Super early in Seattle. Cool. Yeah. And again, reach out. Like I can't. When I was a student, I'd be like, maybe these people don't want to talk to me. Maybe these people think they're too good for me. But nah, dude, just reach out to me. I'm a nice guy. And I tell Kevin I love helping people. I really do. I get a kick.
He is kind of the reason that I got started with game dev actually, and I'm interning at EA now. So I mean, he's a pretty nice dude. Can confirm.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if you were a person, I'd be giving hugs, but unfortunately, this is the current situation. All right, Kevin, I'm gonna go check the Discord out, and I'm gonna upload the project in a zip file probably. Thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Have a good one.
Yeah.